The distant plains of Montana Territory, 1867. A woman rides alone, her face weathered by sun and purpose. 25 years she's trained for this moment, to drive her blade through the heart of the man who destroyed her family. She was just a baby when her mother placed her in the arms of the Apache, whispering a single command: make her strong enough to kill him. Now she stands before her enemy, dagger drawn. But something in his eyes gives her pause, a reflection of her own pain, her own search for truth. He doesn't cower. Instead, he speaks her true name, one she herself doesn't know. Could a lifetime of hatred be built on lies? What happens when the person you were born to destroy becomes the only one who can save your soul? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The Apache called her Ghost Wolf, a fitting name for a child who arrived as if from the spirit world, wrapped in a singed blanket that smelled of smoke and death. Soaring Eagle, the medicine man who raised her, often recounted how she never cried, even as an infant. Your spirit knew it must be silent to survive, he would tell her. Her earliest memories were of training. While other children played with carved wooden animals, she learned to move silently through dry grass without disturbing a single blade. By 8, she could track deer for miles without losing their trail. By 12, she could put an arrow through a flying bird. By 16, she could kill a man in 15 different ways. Each year on the night of the winter moon, Ghost Wolf participated in the remembrance ritual. Soaring Eagle would heat his ceremonial knife until it glowed red, then add another small scar to her forearm. Remember why you live, he would say, as her flesh sizzled beneath the blade. She never flinched. There were now 25 scars lined in a row, each representing a year of preparation for her sacred mission. The Apache tribe had adopted her, but never fully embraced her as one of their own. Her pale skin and blue eyes marked her as different, though none dared speak of it openly. She was being shaped for a purpose, a living weapon aimed at the heart of the man they called White Devil. He betrayed your mother, Soaring Eagle had told her. He pretended to love her, then gave her to the flames when she trusted him most. On her 20th birthday, Ghost Wolf left the tribe to begin her hunt. The elders presented her with a silver dagger bearing an unfamiliar crest, supposedly her mother's family emblem, kept all these years for this moment. The weapon felt strangely right in her hand, as if made for her grip. For 5 years she tracked whispers and rumors across the frontier. A man matching his description had been seen in Colorado, then Wyoming, finally settling in Montana Territory. A former military man, now a rancher, a man who lived alone, spoke little of his past. 2 weeks ago, she'd found him. Joseph Blackwood. From her hidden camp in the hills, she'd observed him through a brass spyglass. The White Devil did not match the monster of her imagination. His face was weathered, but kind, his movements deliberate and careful. Locals seemed to respect him. He helped a Cheyenne family repair their wagon when it broke down outside his property. He shared his water during the dry season with struggling homesteaders downstream. The devil wears many masks, warned the voice of Soaring Eagle in her memory. Yet doubt had crept in like morning mist. Why would this man, seemingly honored in his community, have committed the atrocities she'd been raised to avenge? Why did something about his profile against the sunset stir a strange familiarity? An old medicine woman in the nearby Cheyenne camp had grabbed her wrist when she asked about Blackwood. The truth has many faces, Ghost Wolf. Are you certain you seek the right one? Tonight she would end her mission. She had watched his routine, knew when he walked alone to check his northern fence line at dusk. The silver dagger hung at her hip, its weight both comfort and burden. As the sun began its descent, Ghost Wolf prepared herself with ritual paint, a single red line down her face, dividing her features. The mark of justice, the mark of endings. She secured her hair tightly, checked her weapons, and whispered the Apache prayer for successful hunting. The path down from her hidden camp was steep, but she navigated it with the sure-footedness of a mountain lion. Twilight shadows gathered as she approached the boundary of Blackwood's ranch. She could see him in the distance, moving along the fence line, hammer in hand fixing loose posts. Ghost Wolf touched the scars on her arm, 25 reminders of her purpose. She touched the silver dagger, her mother's legacy. Then she moved forward, silent as her namesake, to fulfill the destiny that had shaped her entire existence. The man who must die was just 50 paces away. Joseph Blackwood rose before dawn, as he had every day for the past 23 years. The ranch didn't allow for lazy mornings. He stoked the fire in his cast-iron stove, put coffee on to boil, and opened his weathered journal. In neat, precise handwriting, a remnant of his military days, he made his daily entry, April 17, 1867, clear skies, creek running strong with snowmelt, north fence needs repair. Dreams came again last night. He didn't elaborate on the dreams. No need. They were always the same, a woman's scream, a child's cry, flames climbing wooden walls, and his own hands reaching, always reaching, never grasping what they sought. The coffee bubbled. Outside, his ranch hands would be starting their day. Good men, all of them. 2 locals, a former slave from Tennessee seeking a fresh start, and a Cheyenne youth who showed remarkable skill with horses. Joseph paid fair wages and expected honest work. His ranch wasn't the largest in the territory, but it was respected. After breakfast, Joseph saddled his chestnut gelding and rode to town for supplies. Silver Creek was growing 3 new buildings since winter. The general store, the saloon, the blacksmith, now a proper doctor's office. Progress marching westward. Morning Blackwood, called Marshal Thomas Wilkes from the jailhouse porch. The lawman was nearing 60, but straight-backed as a fence post. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, missed nothing. Marshal Joseph nodded respectfully. Their relationship was complicated. Wilkes had been suspicious when Joseph arrived years ago, a former cavalry officer with haunted eyes and no desire to discuss his past. But Joseph's quiet dignity and fair dealings had earned a measure of respect. Still, Wilkes watched him. The marshal had been in the territories long enough to know that men came west for 2 reasons, opportunity or escape. At the general store, Joseph gathered his supplies. The owner's wife smiled warmly. Their daughter, a girl of 7 with golden braids, handed him a peppermint stick. "Miss Blackwood, will you tell us another story about the Cheyenne ghost dance?" "Sarah," her mother scolded gently. "Mr. Blackwood is busy." "It's all right," Joseph smiled. "Next time, little one." As he loaded his supplies, he felt the chill of a hostile stare. Across the street stood Harrington, the banker. Tall, expensively dressed, with cold eyes in a florid face. The man had arrived last year, buying the small bank and immediately raising interest rates. Since then, 3 families had lost their land. Joseph touched the brim of his hat in neutral greeting. Harrington's lip curled slightly before he turned away. On the ride home, Joseph allowed himself to think about the past. 15 years in the cavalry, rising to the rank of captain, campaigns against hostile tribes, then the growing sickness in his soul at what he was ordered to do, his final refusal to attack a peaceful village, his discharge honorable thanks to a sympathetic colonel, but the end of his military career nonetheless. Then meeting Clara, beautiful, frightened Clara, fleeing something or someone with a swollen belly and desperation in her eyes. Their brief happiness, the fire, the loss. His hand unconsciously touched the scar that ran from his collar to his shoulder blade. Some wounds never fully healed. As he approached his property, Joseph noticed fresh tracks along the ridge, overlooking his ranch. Someone had been watching. He'd felt eyes on him for days now. Instincts, honed in war, still served him well. Near the creek that marked his eastern boundary, Joseph dismounted and knelt by a simple wooden cross. No name marked the grave, None was needed. He placed a wild flower on the mound and remained silent for a long moment. "I still look for her," he whispered finally. "Every day I look back at the ranch house." Joseph took out his battered field glass and scanned the surrounding hills. There a flash of movement near the western ridge. Someone watching, waiting. He returned to his journal and made another entry. "Stranger in the hills. Been there 3 days now, coming closer. Maybe tonight it ends." He closed the book and reached for the revolver he kept in his desk drawer. Whatever was coming, Joseph Blackwood would face it standing. The moon cast silver light across Blackwood's ranch as Ghost Wolf moved silently toward the main house. Her moccasins made no sound on the packed earth. The silver dagger rested in her palm, ready. After 25 years of preparation, her mission would end tonight. A sudden noise stopped her. Voices, harsh, unfamiliar, came from behind the barn. Crouching low, she approached. 5 men, strangers, not Blackwood's regular hands. They carried rifles and spoke in hushed tones. "Harrington wants it to look like Indians," one said, checking his weapon. "We leave feathers, make some marks. Town'll blame the Cheyenne." "What about Blackwood?" asked another. "Kill him slow," replied a tall man with a scarred face. "Boss has special instructions." Ghost Wolf's jaw tightened. These men would rob her of her vengeance. More importantly, they would blame her people, for she still considered the Apache her people. Despite her pale skin, the injustice of it burned in her chest. Suddenly, a lantern flared from the ranch house. Joseph Blackwood emerged, rifle in hand. "Show yourselves," he called, voice steady. The rustlers scattered, taking positions. The tall man raised his rifle, aiming carefully at Blackwood. Ghost Wolf's body moved before her mind decided. Her throwing knife flashed through the night air, burying itself in the tall man's shoulder. His shot went wild, alerting Blackwood to the danger. Chaos erupted. In the confusion, Ghost Wolf found herself fighting alongside her sworn enemy. Blackwood moved with the precision of a trained soldier, each shot finding its mark. She matched his efficiency with her own deadly skills, her silver dagger slicing through the night. "Behind you," Blackwood called. She ducked as he fired over her head, dropping a man who had crept up behind her. Their eyes met briefly, recognition of skilled warriors in common purpose. When it ended, 3 rustlers lay dead. 2 had escaped, including the tall man, bleeding from Ghost Wolf's knife wound. The night fell silent again, broken only by their heavy breathing. Blackwood lowered his rifle, regarding her carefully. "You have my thanks, stranger, though I'm curious why someone who's been watching my ranch for a week would help defend it." Ghost Wolf stiffened. "I did not do it for you. They would have blamed my people." "Your people?" His eyes narrowed, studying her features in the moonlight. Then something changed in his expression. Shock, disbelief, hope. The rifle slipped from his hands. "Aurora?" he whispered. The name struck her like a physical blow. Her compass, always pointing toward vengeance, suddenly spun wildly. "That is not my name. Your eyes," he continued, as if he hadn't heard her. "Just like your mother's. You speak of the woman you betrayed," Ghost Wolf hissed, raising the silver dagger. "The woman you murdered." Blackwood didn't reach for his fallen rifle. Instead, he unbuttoned his shirt collar, exposing his neck. "If you believe that, then finish your mission. I won't stop you." His calm acceptance confused her. This was not how a guilty man should act. Before she could respond, a cry came from the bunkhouse. One of Blackwood's ranch hands stumbled out, clutching his side, blood seeping between his fingers. "Mr. Blackwood, they shot Miguel before you came out." The moment shattered. Blackwood immediately turned toward the injured man, though Ghost Wolf in his peripheral vision. "He needs help, or he'll bleed out." Ghost Wolf hesitated, the dagger still raised. This was her moment. Blackwood distracted, vulnerable, yet something held her back. The name he'd called her, the recognition in his eyes, the wrongness of killing a man who had just fought at her side. I know field medicine, she said finally, lowering the weapon slightly. From the Apache. Relief crossed Blackwood's face. Thank you. We'll need clean water, bandages from the house. Together they carried the wounded man inside. The ranch house was simple but neat. A desk with papers, bookshelves, a fireplace with a single chair beside it. Nothing like the lair of evil she had imagined. As they worked to save the ranch hand, Ghost Wolf's eyes caught something on Blackwood's desk, her silver dagger's twin, with the same unusual crest. Where did you get that knife? She demanded. Blackwood followed her gaze. It was your mother's, he said simply. The broken compass within her spun faster. Dawn found them exhausted, but victorious. Miguel, the wounded ranch hand, slept fitfully, his breathing steady. Ghost Wolf had extracted the bullet with skilled hands, while Blackwood assisted, their silent coordination eerily natural. You should rest, Blackwood said, offering her the single bedroom while he took the chair. She declined, unwilling to be vulnerable. Instead, she claimed the kitchen, her back to the wall, watching him through the doorway. Sleep eluded her. When Blackwood's breathing deepened, she rose silently to explore the house. Her mission required understanding her enemy. At least, that's what she told herself. The modest home revealed little, a soldier's neatness, simple furnishings, books on agriculture and history. A small desk held papers, mostly ranch business, nothing to suggest the monster from her childhood stories. Then she found it, a loose floorboard, beneath the rug, discovered by the hollow sound beneath her careful footsteps. Inside was a tin box containing letters, yellowed with age, all addressed to my dearest, Aurora. Her hands trembled as she opened one. My dearest Aurora, today you smiled for the first time. Your mother says it was just gas, but I know better. You recognized me. Your father in all ways that matter. The letter slipped from her fingers. A floorboard creaked behind her. I've kept everything, Blackwood said softly, standing in the doorway. For when I found you, Ghost Wolf was on her feet, instantly, dagger drawn. I came here to kill you. I know, he replied calmly. I've been waiting for you for 25 years. Sunlight crept through the window, illuminating the dust motes between them. Two warriors at impasse. The Apache told me what you did, she said, voice tight. How you betrayed my mother. How you gave her to the flames. Pain crossed his face. Is that what they told you? They raised me to avenge her. They raised you to kill the wrong man. His voice remained steady. The man who actually killed your mother. He's still out there, and I've been hunting him since the night I lost you both. Confusion churned within her. You speak lies. 3 days, he proposed suddenly. Give me 3 days to show you the truth. Then decide if I deserve your blade. Why would I believe anything you say? Because you already doubt your mission. You would have killed me last night if you didn't. His perception stung, because it contained truth. She had hesitated. The discovery of the matching dagger, the name he'd called her, the letters they had planted seeds of doubt. 3 days, she agreed finally. But I keep my weapons, and I sleep where I choose. Agreed. He extended his hand, then thought better of it when she stiffened. Do you have a name I can call you? I've thought of you as Aurora for so long, but you've had another life. She hesitated. The Apache called me Ghost Wolf. Ghost Wolf, he repeated, a sad smile touching his lips. Fitting, you were always quiet even as a baby. The casual mention of her infancy unsettled her deeply. I need to check the herd, he said. Rustlers sometimes use a first attack as distraction for a second. You're welcome to join me. She nodded curtly. Better to keep him in sight. As they prepared to leave, Blackwood paused by the stove. Are you hungry? I can make breakfast. The offer was so mundane, so at odds with her mission, that Ghost Wolf almost laughed. Instead, she watched in silence as he prepared a simple meal, bacon, eggs, coffee. When he served her, he added a small portion of something unfamiliar. What is this? She asked suspiciously. wild berries with honey. He stopped himself. It was Aurora's favorite. The sweet tart taste exploded on her tongue, bringing an unbidden memory of sitting on someone's lap, sticky fingers, laughter. The phantom memory vanished as quickly as it came. Their meal was interrupted by the arrival of Marshal Wilkes. The lawman's sharp eyes took in Ghost Wolf's presence immediately. New ranch hand, Blackwood. His hand rested casually near his holster. Just passing through, Blackwood replied. Helped with some rustlers last night. That's so. Wilkes didn't sound convinced. Those rustlers wouldn't happen to be Harrington's men. Didn't introduce themselves before shooting. The marshal studied Ghost Wolf. You have a name, miss? She met his gaze steadily. Ghost Wolf. That's not a name, that's a legend, Wilkes remarked. Heard stories about a half-white Apache tracker. Didn't think you were real, much less a woman. I'm real enough, she replied. The tension stretched between them until Blackwood intervened. We need to check the north pasture, Marshal. 3 of my cattle are missing. Wilkes nodded slowly. I'll ride along. As they saddled horses, Ghost Wolf noticed how Blackwood handled the animals with the same gentle confidence she'd been taught by the Apache. Another unsettling similarity. The 3 rode out in uneasy formation, Ghost Wolf acutely aware that she now traveled with the man she'd sworn to kill, and no clear understanding of whether her entire life's purpose had been built on truth or lies. The north pasture showed signs of the rustlers' work: trampled grass, broken fence posts, cattle tracks leading toward the mountains. Ghost Wolf dismounted, examining the ground with practiced ease. 5 men, 6 horses, she reported. 1 rider bleeding. She touched a dark stain on a leaf. My knife found its mark. Marshal Wilkes raised an eyebrow, impressed, despite himself. Blackwood simply nodded, as if expecting nothing less. They're headed for Blackwater Canyon. Ghost Wolf continued. Difficult passage. They're moving slow with the cattle. We could catch them, Blackwood suggested. Wilkes shook his head. Not enough of us. I'll gather a posse in town. As the marshal rode off, Blackwood turned to Ghost Wolf. Your tracking skills are remarkable. The Apache taught me well. She hesitated. You recognize their teachings. I lived among the Cheyenne for a time, he explained. After I lost everything, they rode in silence back to the ranch. Ghost Wolf observed how he spoke to his horses, the Apache words of encouragement matching those she'd grown up with. Another unsettling parallel. Soaring eagle's warnings echoed in her mind. The devil's greatest power is making you doubt what you know to be true. But what did she truly know? Only what she'd been told. At midday, Blackwood suggested they ride to town for supplies. Ghost Wolf agreed, eager to observe him among others. In Silver Creek, she watched how people greeted him with respect, though some with caution. Not the reception she'd expect for a murderer. Outside the general store, they encountered children tormenting a young boy of mixed heritage. Before Ghost Wolf could react, Blackwood intervened. Tommy Evans, he said firmly to the ringleader, would your father approve of this behavior? The boys scattered, mumbling apologies. Blackwood helped the young boy up, speaking gently in Cheyenne. The boy nodded gratefully before running off. You speak their language well, Ghost Wolf observed. Languages were always easy for me, he replied. I speak Apache too. As if to prove it, he added in perfect Apache. The path of truth is rarely straight. The familiar proverb in her native tongue sent a chill through her. Before she could respond, a well-dressed man approached, the banker Harrington. Blackwood, he nodded curtly, before turning appreciative eyes to Ghost Wolf. And who might this lovely lady be? A friend, Blackwood answered before she could speak. Something in Harrington's gaze made Ghost Wolf's instincts flare. This man was dangerous, perhaps more so than Blackwood. I heard about your trouble last night, Harrington continued. Terrible business, these Indian raids. It wasn't Indians, Blackwood corrected. Just thieves. Of course, Harrington smiled thinly. My mistake. As they left town, Ghost Wolf asked, who is that man? Cyrus Harrington. Arrived last year, bought the bank, started squeezing folks, wants my land for some reason, offered 3 times its value. Why refuse a good price? Blackwood's jaw tightened. That land holds memories. I won't sell. That night, Ghost Wolf dreamed of fire. A woman screamed. Strong arms carried her through smoke. Then another pair of arms, dark, tattooed with Apache symbols, took her away. In the dream, her small hands reached back toward the burning building, toward someone left behind. She woke with a start, knife in hand. The ranch house was quiet except for Blackwood's soft snoring from the chair where he slept. On silent feet, she moved to the window, staring at the stars, trying to sort memory from dream, truth from falsehood. Morning brought new tensions. Ghost Wolf found Blackwood carving something, a small wooden horse taking shape beneath his skilled hands. "You're good with a knife," she observed. "Had a lot of practice." He held up the carving. "Used to make these for you, for Aurora. You had a collection." The simple statement struck her like a physical blow. "I never had toys. The Apache didn't give you any." "I had weapons, training tools." Sadness crossed his face. "You were barely walking when you left here. You wouldn't remember the horses." Later that day, as Blackwood mended fences, a rattlesnake struck from beneath a rock. Ghost Wolf's hand moved faster than thought, catching the snake behind its head mid-strike, inches from Blackwood's leg. He stared at her, then at the angry serpent twisting in her grip. "Thank you." She released the snake into the brush. "Why would I save you if I still planned to kill you? You tell me." That evening they sat on the porch, watching stars appear. Blackwood pointed out constellations, then asked, "What did the Apache tell you about your mother?" "That she was beautiful, that you betrayed her love and trust, that her last wish was for me to avenge her." "Clara was beautiful," he agreed softly, "but I never betrayed her. I loved her until her last breath, and I've loved her memory every day since." "Then who killed her?" Blackwood's eyes darkened. "The man she fled from. The man who claimed to love her but treated her like property. When she escaped him, he hunted her down. And this man's name, Maxwell Grant." He spoke the name like a curse. "Your mother's first husband." The name tugged at Ghost Wolf's memory, something Soaring Eagle once mentioned. A connection she couldn't quite grasp. "Tomorrow," Blackwood promised, "I'll show you the rest of what I've kept. Then you can decide my fate." In her makeshift bed that night, Ghost Wolf found a small wooden horse placed on her pillow, freshly carved, smelling of pine. She meant to leave it there, to reject this gesture toward a childhood she never had. Instead, her fingers closed around it, the smooth wood fitting perfectly in her palm. The Silver Creek Bank stood imposing against the modest buildings surrounding it. Inside, Cyrus Harrington reviewed documents spread across his polished mahogany desk. A knock interrupted his concentration. "Enter," he called sharply. The tall man with the scarred face, his foreman Miller, stepped in, arm bandaged where Ghost Wolf's knife had struck. "Well?" Harrington demanded. "Failed, sir." Blackwood wasn't alone. Had some half-breed woman with him, fighting skills like I've never seen. Harrington's fingers drummed impatiently. "Disappointing." "There's more," Miller continued. "The marshal's asking questions. Thinks it wasn't Indians." "Of course he does. Wilkes has always been inconveniently perceptive." Harrington stood, moving to a large map on the wall. Red marks indicated properties throughout the valley, most bearing his name. One parcel remained unmarked. "Blackwood's Ranch. The railroad representatives will be here in 2 weeks, he stated. If we don't control the entire water passage by then, they'll choose another route. Millions in potential development. Lost. What about just killing Blackwood? Quick and simple." Harrington smiled thinly. "Nothing about Joseph Blackwood has ever been quick or simple. The man survived 15 years in the bloodiest Indian campaigns, then somehow escaped the fire that should have killed him. He traced the outline of Blackwood's property. No, we need the land legally transferred. Otherwise, questions arise that might lead to uncomfortable revelations. A knock at the outer door silenced them. Harrington nodded to Miller, who positioned himself beside the entrance, hand on his holster. A clerk ushered in an unexpected visitor. Ghost Wolf. Well? Harrington's surprise quickly transformed into a gracious smile. What brings Blackwood's mysterious friend to my establishment? Ghost Wolf stood ramrod straight, her eyes coolly assessing. I come for information, not pleasantries. Information has value, Harrington replied. What do you offer in exchange? You want Blackwood's land? I might help you acquire it. Miller tensed, but Harrington raised a hand to still him. Indeed, and why would you betray your friend? He is not my friend. Our arrangement is temporary. Harrington gestured to a chair. Ghost Wolf remained standing. Very well. What information do you seek? You served in the cavalry. With Blackwood. Harrington's smile faltered slightly. A lifetime ago. We were stationed together briefly. Then you knew his wife. Something dangerous flashed in Harrington's eyes. Clara? Yes, I knew her. Beautiful woman. Tragic what happened. Tell me. Harrington studied her face. You have her eyes, he said suddenly. I thought I recognized something familiar about you. Ghost Wolf concealed her shock. You knew my mother? So it's true, Harrington whispered, almost to himself. The child survived. He recovered quickly. Blackwood must have told you his version of events. That he tried to save Clara from her villainous first husband. Something like that. And did he mention who that husband was? Maxwell Grant. Harrington laughed without humor. Of course. The convenient villain. Ghost Wolf's patience thinned. Sick plainly. There was no Maxwell Grant. Blackwood invented him to cover his own crimes. Harrington moved to a cabinet, retrieving a bottle of whiskey. When Clara discovered what kind of man she'd married, his violence during the Indian campaigns, the women and children he'd killed, she tried to leave. Blackwood couldn't allow that. Ghost Wolf's hand drifted to her dagger. You lie. Do ask yourself why a decorated cavalry officer suddenly resigned his commission to hide in the wilderness. Ask why he never remarried. Guilt changes a man. Outside the bank, Ghost Wolf paused, absorbing what she'd heard. Conflicting stories, opposing truths. Her certainty, once absolute, now fractured like ice in spring. She hadn't told Harrington everything, especially not what she'd overheard when approaching the bank. His conversation with Miller about eliminating Blackwood, about the railroad deal. Whatever the truth about the past, Harrington was a present danger. As she crossed the street, a water trough reflected her face. High cheekbones, blue eyes beneath dark brows, features neither fully Apache nor completely white. Whose face did she wear? Whose blood ran in her veins? Later at the creek edge on Blackwood's property, she encountered Joseph watering his horse. Went to town? He asked casually. I spoke with Harrington. Blackwood stiffened. That was dangerous. He says there was no Maxwell Grant, that you invented him. Did he now? Blackwood's voice remained calm, though his eyes hardened. And did he tell you about the railroad deal? How my land is the final piece he needs? Ghost Wolf's surprise must have shown on her face. Yes, I know about that, Blackwood continued. Just as I know Cyrus Harrington is not his real name. Then what is it? Blackwood looked her directly in the eyes. 25 years ago, he was Lieutenant Maxwell Grant. The revelation hit Ghost Wolf like a physical blow. Harrington, the man who killed your mother, Blackwood finished grimly. And he's just discovered you're alive. Night fell over the ranch as Blackwood led Ghost Wolf to the small root cellar behind the house. He lifted a hidden trapdoor beneath empty barrels, revealing a narrow ladder descending into darkness. After the fire, he explained, lighting a lantern, I became cautious. The underground room was small but dry. A sturdy table held maps and documents, neatly arranged. One wall displayed yellowed newspaper clippings and sketches, faces, locations, dates, all connected by red string, like a spider's web of investigation. For 25 years, Blackwood said, I've been gathering evidence, following Grant's trail as he changed names, created new identities. Ghost Wolf studied the wall. You knew he was Harrington, not until 3 months ago. His careful disappears, reinvents himself, but his patterns remain consistent. The land schemes, the manipulation, the violence, disguised as progress. He pointed to a military photograph, young officers in uniform, 7th Cavalry, 1842. Grant and I served together. He was brilliant, charming, also cruel. He ordered massacres the official reports called pacifications. Another photo showed a beautiful woman with ghost wolf's eyes. Clara, Blackwood said softly. Your mother. She was 17 when Grant married her. Daughter of a wealthy Boston merchant. By 18 she was pregnant and desperate to escape his brutality. Ghost wolf's fingers brushed the image. She fled to you. We'd been childhood friends before Grant courted her. She had nowhere else to turn. His voice softened. I helped her escape, brought her west. We fell in love during those months, waiting for your birth. The tenderness in his voice resonated with truth. Yet Ghost Wolf's doubts remained. You speak of love. Harrington Grant speaks of betrayal. How do I know which man lies? You don't, Blackwood acknowledged. That's the cruelty of his plan. By raising you to kill me, he removes the last witness to his crimes and takes his revenge on us both. Rage surged through Ghost Wolf. She stormed from the cellar, from the house, into the night. Her entire life, her identity, her purpose, built on lies. Or was Blackwood the liar, spinning tales to save himself? She ran until her lungs burned, stopping finally at the edge of a small creek. The moon reflected in its rippling surface, fragmenting into countless shards of light, like the broken pieces of truth she struggled to assemble. The water knows many stories, came a weathered voice. Ghost Wolf spun, knife drawn. An elderly Cheyenne woman stood nearby, leaning on a gnarled walking stick. Grey Dove, Ghost Wolf greeted her, recognizing the medicine woman from the nearby camp. Two spirits war within you, Grey Dove observed, the hunter and the daughter, the weapon and the child. How do you know this? I was there, young one. The night of fire. Grey Dove lowered herself onto a rock. I treated Joseph's burns when he crawled from the flames, half dead, still calling your mother's name. You saw Grant kill her. I saw a man whose eyes held only hate, and another whose eyes held only love, even through his pain. She touched Ghost Wolf's cheek. You have your mother's face, but your spirit has been shaped by those who raised you. The Apache taught me strength. They taught you to be a weapon, Grey Dove corrected. But a woman is more than steel and vengeance. Dawn was breaking when Ghost Wolf returned to the ranch. Blackwood sat on the porch, cleaning his rifle, his face showing relief at her return. I thought you might not come back. I almost didn't, he nodded. The final day of our agreement. By sunset, you'll decide my fate. I need to know everything, no more half-truths. Blackwood set aside his rifle. There's something I haven't shown you. Inside, he removed a floorboard, revealing another hidden compartment. From it, he withdrew a military medal, tarnished with age. For valor, he explained. I received this after refusing Grant's order to attack a peaceful village. He brought charges against me, insubordination, but the colonel saw through him, commended my judgment instead. This proves nothing. No, he agreed, but this might. He handed her a faded document, his military discharge, honorable, dated 3 years before her mother's death. I was no longer in the cavalry when Clara found me. I was ranching, wanting nothing more to do with war. Ghost Wolf studied the paper, finding no flaw in its authenticity. Your Apache mother, Blackwood said carefully. Did she ever mention your true name? She said names hold power, that I would reclaim mine when my mission was complete. Your true name is Aurora Blackwood, he said softly. Not by blood, Grant was your biological father, but by choice. I adopted you legally after your birth. The assertion struck her like lightning. You lie. Search your earliest memories, Aurora, before the Apache. A wooden horse collection, a silver music box that played when you couldn't sleep, a red blanket you refused to be without. Fragments of images flashed in her mind, a man's gentle laugh, strong arms lifting her toward the sky, A wooden horse galloping along a blanket mountain. I need proof, she whispered. A sudden pounding at the door interrupted them. Marshal Wilkes's voice called urgently. Blackwood, Harrington's men are coming. A dozen riders, armed. They'll be here by noon. Blackwood's ranch transformed into a fortress within the hour. Windows boarded, water barrels filled, ammunition distributed. Ghost Wolf moved with military precision. Her decision made, if not about the past, then about the present. Whatever the truth of her origin, Harrington's men were the enemy now. Your hands, she noted, as Blackwood loaded his rifle. They move exactly as the Apache taught me. The Cheyenne and Apache share many techniques, he replied. I adapted what I learned. Marshal Wilkes paced the porch, scanning the horizon. Miller's leading them, Harrington's foreman. Mina's a rattlesnake, with twice the venom. You're not obligated to stay, Marshal, Blackwood said. Wilkes snorted. 20 years wearing this badge. About time I used it for something worthwhile. Ghost Wolf studied the terrain, calculating angles, cover, exposure. We're outnumbered. Need to funnel them through the narrow approach by the creek. Blackwood nodded. I was thinking the same. They worked together setting traps, pitfalls covered with brush, tripwires connected to shotguns, strategically weakened fence rails that would collapse under weight. Their coordination was instinctive, each anticipating the other's thoughts. You fight like someone I trained myself, Blackwood observed. Or perhaps you fight like my Apache teachers. Midday sun beat down when dust clouds appeared on the horizon. Ghost Wolf took kitchens in the barn loft, rifle ready. Blackwood and Wilkes stationed themselves in the house and stable. The riders approached slowly, spreading out to surround the property. Miller rode at their center, his face twisted in an ugly grin. Blackwood, he shouted, Mr. Harrington's reconsidered his offer. $10,000 for your land, right now. Not for sale, Miller, Blackwood called back, especially not to a man using a stolen name. Miller's expression darkened. Hard way then. He raised his arm, and the attack began. The first wave fell to their traps. 2 riders pitched into hidden holes. Another took a shotgun blast, triggered by a wire. The others retreated, regrouped, then attacked from multiple directions. Ghost Wolf picked off 2 men attempting to reach the house. Blackwood's rifle cracked steadily, his aim deadly accurate. For nearly an hour they held the attackers at bay. Then a flaming arrow arced through the air, landing on the barn roof. Ghost Wolf scrambled to extinguish it, but more followed. Smoke billowed as the dry wood caught fire. Ghost Wolf, Blackwood shouted from the house. Fall back. She grabbed her weapons and sprinted across the open yard as bullets kicked up dust around her. A sharp pain tore through her shoulder, but she kept moving, diving through the door. Blackwood held open. You're hit, he said, face tight with concern. Great. She winced as he examined the wound. I've had worse from training. Outside, Miller's men had surrounded the house. The burning barn illuminated the yard like midday. They'll torch the house next, Wilkes predicted grimly. Checking his ammunition, Blackwood nodded. We need to reach the root cellar. There's a tunnel. Ghost Wolf's eyes widened. You planned for this. I've been expecting Grant for 25 years. A bullet shattered the window, showering them with glass. Blackwood moved to return fire, but staggered suddenly, blood blooming on his side. Joseph! Ghost Wolf caught him as he fell, lowering him to the floor. The wound was deep. A bullet had found its mark between the boards. I'm all right, he insisted, though his face had gone pale. Just need to bind it. Ghost Wolf tore strips from her shirt, working quickly to staunch the bleeding. As she tied the bandage, her fingers brushed an old scar across his ribs, a distinctive pattern she recognized instantly. This scar, she whispered. I've seen it before. Blackwood grimaced. The fire, when I tried to reach you and Clara. No, Ghost Wolf shook her head. In my visions. The Apache medicine man showed me the mark of the man who killed my mother, a burn scar shaped like a broken arrow. Their eyes met in shocked understanding. For years she'd been told to look for this exact scar as proof of her enemy's identity. Grant has the same scar, Blackwood realized. We both were burned that night. Then how do I know which of you, Another volley of bullets interrupted her question. Wilkes returned fire, then ducked down beside them. "We need that tunnel now, Blackwood." "They're moving in." Together they half-carried Blackwood toward the kitchen and the hidden cellar entrance. Ghost Wolf could feel his blood soaking through the bandages, his breathing growing labored. "If I don't make it," he whispered to her, "there's a locked box in the cellar. The key is around my neck. It contains everything you need to know." "Save your strength," she ordered. "I didn't spend 25 years training to kill you just to let someone else do it." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "Stubborn, like your mother." As they reached the kitchen, the front door splintered open. Miller stood framed in the doorway, rifle raised, his scarred face twisted in triumph. "Found you." Marshal Wilkes fired without hesitation. Miller dove for cover as the bullet splintered the doorframe. Ghost Wolf dragged Blackwood behind the heavy oak table, flipping it for protection. "The cellar door," Blackwood gasped, pointing to the corner pantry. Wilkes provided covering fire, while Ghost Wolf pulled back the rug, revealing the trapdoor. Shots exchanged rapidly, filling the room with gun smoke and the smell of burnt powder. "Go," Wilkes shouted, reloading his revolver. "I'll hold them." Bossed, Ghost Wolf helped Blackwood down the ladder, his face tight with pain. The cellar was cool and dark, illuminated only by slivers of light from above. Muffled gunfire continued. "The tunnel entrance," Blackwood directed, leaning heavily against her. "Behind the wine rack." She found the hidden latch, revealing a narrow passage. "We can't leave the marshal. Thomas knows what he's doing." As if confirming his words, Wilkes appeared at the top of the ladder. "They're regrouping. Won't take long." He climbed down quickly, pulling the trapdoor shut above him. "This tunnel of yours better lead somewhere useful, Joseph." "Half-mile to the creek bed," Blackwood explained. "Built it when I first suspected Grant was back." They moved slowly through the earthen passage, supporting Blackwood between them. His breathing grew more labored, the bandage on his side now soaked crimson. "Need to rest," he finally admitted, slumping against the tunnel wall. Wilkes glanced behind them. "No sounds of pursuit yet, but they'll find the cellar eventually." Ghost Wolf examined Blackwood's wound in the dim light from Wilkes's lantern. "The bleeding won't stop. He needs a doctor." "Too far," Wilkes shook his head. "Nearest doctor's in Silver Creek." "Then we go to the Cheyenne camp," she decided. "Grey Dove can help." Blackwood reached for her hand. "Wait. There's something." He fumbled at his neck, pulling out a small key on a leather cord. "The box. In my pocket." Ghost Wolf found the metal box, unlocked it. Inside lay a folded paper and a tarnished tin star, an old bounty hunter's badge. "That's a territorial marshal's badge," Wilkes said, surprised. "From before my time, I wasn't always a rancher," Blackwood explained weakly. "After my discharge, I tracked criminals for the territory." The paper read it. Ghost Wolf unfolded the yellowed document, a wanted poster. The sketch showed a younger version of the man they knew as Harrington, identified as Maxwell Grant, wanted for murder, arson, theft. The date was 26 years ago. "I was hunting him when Clara found me," Blackwood continued. "She didn't know I was tracking her husband. Thought I was just an old friend offering sanctuary." "You've been hunting Grant for more than half your life," Wilkes realized. "He disappeared after the fire, changed his name, his appearance. Each time I got close, he vanished again. Harrington is his sixth identity that I know of." Ghost Wolf studied the poster. "This still doesn't prove which of you killed my mother." "No," Blackwood agreed. "But it proves Grant was a wanted man before Clara died. That she was fleeing him, not me." Wilkes took the poster, examining it close. "This is why you recognized him when no one else did." A distant noise echoed through the tunnel, men's voices, faint but growing closer. "They've found the cellar," Wilkes warned. "How much farther to the exit?" "Quarter mile." Blackwood grimaced, trying to stand. "We need to move." Ghost Wolf helped him up, supporting his weight. "Why is Harrington Grant so determined to get your land? There must be easier properties to acquire for his railroad." "It's not about the land," Blackwood said. It's about erasing the past. The fire happened here, on this property. If he owns it, he controls the final evidence of what happened that night. And what did happen? Ghostwolf demanded. I need the whole truth. Clara chose me, Blackwood said simply. Grant couldn't accept that. He tracked us down, waited until I was checking the herd. By the time I saw the smoke, his voice broke. He'd already shot Clara, who's standing over her body when I burst in. We fought. The lantern broke. Fire spread so fast. Yet you both survived. I thought you died in the flames. Grant believed the same. For years we've each believed the other responsible for killing both you and Clara. They reached the tunnel exit, a cleverly disguised opening in the creek bank, hidden by brush. Night had fallen, but the distant glow of the burning barn illuminated the sky. We need to reach the Cheyenne camp, Ghostwolf urged. It's our only chance. Wilkes peered out cautiously. I'll go to town instead, gather men I trust. The territorial governor arrives tomorrow for the railroad meeting. He needs to know what's happening. Harrington will have men watching the roads, Blackwood warned. Wilkes checked his revolver. I wasn't always a town marshal. I know how to move unseen. He handed Ghostwolf his spare gun. Keep him alive, Miss Ghostwolf. Or Aurora. Whatever your name is, Blackwood's a good man. As Wilkes disappeared into the darkness, Ghostwolf turned to Blackwood, whose face was alarmingly pale in the moonlight. Can you make it to the Cheyenne camp? Do I have a choice? He attempted a smile, though pain lined his face. I've waited 25 years to find you, not going to die now that I have. The night embraced them as Ghostwolf helped Blackwood through the forest. Every step drew a muffled groan from him, but he refused to stop. Blood soaked through his makeshift bandage, warm against her supporting arm. There, she whispered, pointing ahead where firelight flickered between trees. The Cheyenne camp. Dogs barked as they approached. Warriors emerged from teepees, weapons ready until they recognized Blackwood. Joseph Two Rivers, one greeted, using his Cheyenne name. You are wounded. Grant's men, Blackwood managed. Need Gray Dove. They were led to the medicine woman's lodge. The elderly healer took one look at Blackwood and began gathering herbs and poultices. Bullet? She asked Ghostwolf. Yes. Still inside, Gray Dove nodded grimly. Hold him. What followed tested even Ghostwolf's hardened composure. Gray Dove extracted the bullet using bone tools, her ancient fingers surprisingly steady. Blackwood remained conscious throughout, his jaw clenched against the pain, eyes fixed on Ghostwolf's face as if drawing strength from her presence. He will live, Gray Dove announced finally, applying a pungent paste to the wound. If fever doesn't take him, Ghostwolf helped position Blackwood on a bed of furs. His skin burned beneath her touch, his breathing shallow. Rest now, she told him. No time, he whispered. Grant will come. These people in danger, because of me. The Cheyenne have positioned scouts, she assured him. We'll have warning. His hand caught hers, surprisingly strong. Aurora, there's more you need to know. The name still felt foreign to her, yet something deep within responded to it. Save your strength. No. His eyes were feverish, but determined. You deserve the whole truth. He gestured weakly toward his saddlebag, which the Cheyenne had brought from his horse. Silver box. Inside, Ghostwolf found it, a tarnished silver music box. She opened it, and a delicate melody filled the lodge. Something stirred in her memory, fragments, like reflections in broken glass. Your mother played it for you every night, Blackwood said softly. You wouldn't sleep without it. The melody awakened images buried deep in her mind, a woman's gentle smile, a warm embrace, the scent of lavender. I remember, she whispered, surprised. She sang with it. Yes, tears formed in Blackwood's eyes. A lullaby her grandmother taught her. Ghostwolf closed the box, the music cutting off abruptly. Tell me about that night. Everything. Blackwood's gaze turned inward, seeing across years. Clara and I had been married 6 months. You were nearly 2. We were happy, despite always looking over our shoulders. His voice grew stronger as he spoke, as if the telling itself was medicine. That evening I rode out to check the herd. Spring thunderstorms had scattered them. Clara was making supper when I left. You were playing with your wooden horses on the floor. Ghost Wolf could almost see it, the domestic scene, the life that might have been hers. I'd been gone perhaps an hour when I saw smoke. Rode back so hard my horse nearly collapsed. The house was already engulfed when I arrived. His breathing quickened with remembered panic. I found Clara on the kitchen floor, shot through the heart, Grant standing over her. When he saw me, he fired, but missed. We fought. The lantern broke, spilled oil everywhere. The flames spread so fast. Ghost Wolf leaned closer, not wanting to miss a word. Grant escaped through the back door. I reached for you. You were screaming in your crib in the next room. The ceiling beam fell, caught me. His hand touched his scarred side. I tried to reach you, but the flames, his voice broke. Ghost Wolf found herself gripping his hand, urging him to continue. I lost consciousness. When I woke, Cheyenne hunters had pulled me from the ruins. The house was ashes, no sign of you. I believed you'd perished with your mother. But the Apache found me. They must have been nearby, taken you for their own. Not for their own, Ghost Wolf corrected bitterly. For vengeance. Grey Dove, who had been mixing medicines nearby, spoke suddenly. The night of fire I treated this man's burns. His grief was a living thing. No man who had harmed his wife and child could feel such pain. Ghost Wolf turned to the old woman. You knew who I was when we met at the creek. I suspected, Grey Dove nodded. You have your mother's eyes, and his determination. Outside, a warning call sounded. A young warrior appeared at the lodge entrance. Riders coming. Many men. Ghost Wolf rose immediately. Grant, you must go. Blackwood struggled to sit up. I won't bring death to these people. You can't move, she insisted. Then you go. Take the music box. Take the evidence. I won't leave you to face him alone. Blackwood's fever-bright eyes held hers. You are not a weapon, Aurora. You are my daughter. Not by blood, but by choice, by love. I won't lose you again. The words resonated through her, awakening something buried beneath years of training and hatred. She remembered being lifted toward the sky on strong, gentle hands. Remembered feeling safe, loved. I am Ghost Wolf, she said firmly. And Aurora. Both are true. She checked her weapons, and neither would abandon her father. Dawn approached, painting the eastern sky in delicate pinks and golds. Ghost Wolf crouched at the edge of the Cheyenne camp, watching Grant's men position themselves in the tree line. She counted 12 riders, all armed. Too many for a direct confrontation. A Cheyenne warrior crawled to her position. Women and children moved to hidden caves, he whispered. Elders too. And Blackwood. Grey Dove refuses to leave him, says his spirit walks between worlds. The fever had worsened through the night. Blackwood drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes calling Clara's name, sometimes murmuring military commands from long-ago battles. Ghost Wolf returned to the medicine lodge. Grey Dove sat beside Blackwood, chanting softly, burning sweet grass. His face was flushed, his breathing labored. They surround us, Ghost Wolf reported. Grey Dove nodded without interrupting her chant. Blackwood's eyes fluttered open, recognizing Ghost Wolf. Aurora, he whispered, you're still here. I told you I wouldn't leave. His hand fumbled weakly at his neck, pulling a leather cord. Take this, my final gift to you. A small iron key hung from the cord. What does it open? Cedar chest. Buried under the old oak. West corner of what was our home. His voice strengthened with urgency. Everything I saved for you, everything I hoped to give you someday. Ghost Wolf slipped the cord around her neck. You'll give it to me yourself when this is over. Blackwood smiled faintly. Stubborn, like your mother. His eyes closed again, exhaustion claiming him. Outside, a voice called through the morning mist. We know you're harboring Blackwood. Send him out and the rest of you can live." Grey Dove's weathered face showed contempt, forked tongue. White man's promises worth less than coyote tracks. Ghost Wolf knew she was right. Grant wouldn't leave witnesses. A plan formed in her mind, dangerous, but possible. She gathered what she needed, a spare bow from a Cheyenne warrior. Arrows, flint. Then she slipped from the back of the lodge, circling wide through the forest. Moving silent as her namesake, Ghost Wolf positioned herself behind Grant's men. They were focused on the camp, unaware of her approach. One by one she set small fires in the dry brush surrounding them, timing each carefully. When the wind shifted, carrying smoke toward the gunmen, confusion erupted. She used the distraction to take down 2 men with arrows before they understood what was happening. By then, the Cheyenne warriors had launched their own attack from the front. Caught between fires and arrows, Grant's men broke formation, retreating chaotically. Ghost Wolf spotted Miller, the scarred foreman, attempting to rally them. Her arrow found his leg, sending him crashing from his horse. As quickly as it began, the skirmish ended. 3 of Grant's men lay dead. The rest had fled, taking their wounded. Only Miller remained, pinned beneath his fallen horse, cursing as Ghost Wolf approached. "Where is Grant?" she demanded. Arrow knocked. Miller spat blood. "Gone to finish Blackwood's ranch. Said to kill anyone here and follow." "How many men with him?" 4, his best shots. Miller grinned through bloody teeth. "Too late to save anything. That place will be ashes by noon." Ghost Wolf knocked him unconscious with her bow, then returned to the medicine lodge. Grey Dove looked up from tending Blackwood. "The spirits protected us," she observed. "Grant wasn't among them. He's headed for the ranch. What's left of it?" Blackwood stirred at her voice. "Aurora, what happened?" "Grant's men retreated, but he's gone to burn what remains of your home." Blackwood struggled to rise. "The evidence." "Stay," she insisted. "I'll go." His fevered eyes held surprising clarity. "You can't face him alone. I've trained my entire life for this moment." Ghost Wolf checked her weapons. "I know who the real enemy is now." Grey Dove approached with a small bundle. "Take these healing herbs for his wound. And this," she pressed a small buckskin pouch into Ghost Wolf's hand. "For protection." Ghost Wolf mounted a borrowed Cheyenne pony. As she prepared to ride, Blackwood called to her, "Aurora." "Ghost Wolf, whoever you choose to be, know this. I have loved you every day since you were born. Whether you are my daughter by blood or choice doesn't matter. You are the best of both worlds. Clara's beauty and strength, the Apache's wisdom and courage." She felt something shift within her, walls crumbling, that had stood for 25 years. "I'll return," she promised. "One more thing," he said. "In the cedar chest, your mother's blanket, red with white stars. You wouldn't sleep without it as a baby." The detail triggered another fragment of memory. Soft fabric clutched in small hands, a woman's gentle voice singing along with the music box. "I remember," she whispered, surprised by the tears that threatened. As she rode toward Blackwood's ranch, Ghost Wolf carried more than weapons. She carried memories awakening like spring buds after winter's long freeze. She carried a name, Aurora, that no longer felt foreign on her tongue. She carried the knowledge that her life's mission had been built on lies. Most dangerously, she carried hope, a fragile, newborn thing she'd never before allowed herself to feel. The ruins of Blackwood's ranch came into view as Ghost Wolf crested the ridge. Smoke still rose from the charred remains of the barn. The main house stood, though its inns were shattered, its door splintered from Miller's assault. 5 horses were tethered outside. Grant and his men had arrived. She dismounted, securing her pony in a hidden drawer. From her vantage point she studied the men's movement. 2 guarded the perimeter. 2 more searched the house, throwing furniture and papers outside. And there was Grant himself, Harrington directing their efforts with agitated gestures. Ghost Wolf moved silently down the hillside, using scrub brush for cover. The first guard never saw her approach. A swift blow rendered him unconscious, bound and gagged behind a boulder. The second proved more observant, but a well-placed rock drew his attention long enough for her to close the distance between them. Where did Blackwood hide his document? She heard Grant demand inside the house. Check under the floorboards again. Ghost Wolf edged closer to a broken window, listening. Nothing here, Mr. Harrington, one man reported. Just empty hiding places. Grant cursed. He must have moved everything when he realized who I was. Search the barn ruins. As the men exited, Ghost Wolf slipped around to the back door. The kitchen was in disarray, the trapdoor to the cellar hanging open. Grant stood alone in the main room, examining the desk where Blackwood had kept his journal. She stepped into the doorway, silver dagger ready. Looking for something? Grant spun, his hand dropping to his holstered pistol. Recognition flashed across his face, followed by calculating assessment. Ghost Wolf, or should I say Aurora? The name sounded wrong on his lips. You know who I am. Of course. I've known for months. Why do you think I bought the bank, arranged to acquire this particular property? His hand moved slowly away from his gun. I've been looking for you for 25 years. This wasn't the reaction she expected. You believed I died in the fire. At first, Grant's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then rumors reached me. A white child among the Apache, being raised as a weapon. I've had men searching every tribe in the territory. To kill me, to find you. He took a step forward. You're my daughter, my blood. The words struck her like physical blows. You killed my mother. Clara. Pain flashed across his features, so convincing it might have been real. I loved her more than life. Blackwood poisoned her against me, stole her away while I was deployed. When I finally tracked them down, he'd already shot her. I arrived too late. Ghost Wolf maintained her defensive stance. You're lying. Blackwood was hunting you. You were a wanted man before my mother died. Grant's expression hardened. Trumped-up charges. I refused to massacre innocent villages. The army couldn't court-martial a decorated officer, so they branded me a criminal instead. He gestured to the scar visible at his collar. Blackwood did this to me, while I tried to save Clara from the fire he started. Two completely opposite stories, two men with matching scars. How could she know the truth? For 25 years, Grant continued, I've built new lives, gained wealth and influence, all to find you, to reclaim what Blackwood stole from me. Why train me to kill him then? Why not simply tell the Apache who I was? Would they have believed a white man claiming their adopted daughter? No. I needed you to find your own way to him. His voice softened. I never thought you'd actually try to kill him. I expected you to discover the truth, that he was the monster, not me. A noise outside, his men returning. Grant raised his hand, signaling them to wait. Aurora, he said gently, you have your mother's eyes, her determination, but you have my strength, my strategic mind. The Apache merely honed what was already in your blood. Ghost Wolf's certainty wavered. What if Blackwood had lied? What if everything she'd believed these past days was false? I can prove what I say, Grant continued. I have your mother's journal, her letters, documents Blackwood doesn't want you to see. He reached slowly into his coat, withdrawing a worn coin silver with a distinct bullet hole through its center. Your mother gave me this on our wedding day. Said as long as I carried it, I'd carry her heart. The night she died, it stopped the bullet Blackwood meant for my heart. He held it out. Take it. Feel the truth in it. Ghost Wolf hesitated, then accepted the coin. It felt heavy, significant, another piece in the confusing puzzle of her past. Join me, Aurora, Grant urged. Together we'll build something magnificent. The railroad is just the beginning. With my business acumen and your unique skills, we could control this entire territory. And Blackwood, already dying from his wounds, I expect. But if not, Grant shrugged. Justice will be served, one way or another. A sudden commotion erupted outside. One of Grant's men stumbled in, bleeding from a shoulder wound. Ambush, he gasped. Indians and that old marshal. Grant's expression hardened. It seems we have uninvited guests. Perhaps even your Apache mentor. Wouldn't that be convenient? Everyone who knows the truth about your past, gathered in one place. Ghost Wolf gripped her dagger tighter. What truth is that? That you, my dear daughter, Grant smiled coldly, were always meant to be a weapon. I simply ensured you were pointed at the right target. Gunfire erupted outside. Grant's remaining men retreated into the house, taking defensive positions at windows. Through the broken glass, Ghost Wolf glimpsed familiar figures, Cheyenne warriors, and among them a tall Apache man she knew well. Soaring Eagle, she whispered. Grant's eyes narrowed. Your Apache father. How touching. He barked orders to his men, then turned back to her. Choose your side carefully, Aurora. Blood should stand with blood. The scarred coin felt heavy in her palm. Two fathers claiming her, two versions of truth, two halves of herself at war. She closed her fingers around the coin. My mother, she said carefully. What was her favorite song? Grant hesitated, just a fraction too long. She loved many songs. What toy did I sleep with as a child? A doll, of course. The blanket on my crib, what color was it? Irritation flashed across his face. Red. No. White. Does it matter? Each wrong answer crystallized her certainty. Blackwood had known these details instantly. The music box melody, the wooden horses, the red blanket with white stars. Ghost Wolf's grip tightened on her dagger. You never knew us at all. Grant's mask of paternal concern dropped away. Clever girl, but it hardly matters now. One way or another, Blackwood dies today, and you'll help me do it. The front door burst open. Marshal Wilkes entered first, revolver aimed at Grant. Behind him came Soaring Eagle, bow drawn, and supported between two Cheyenne warriors, pale but conscious, was Blackwood himself. Joseph, Grant smiled coldly, still clinging to life, always too stubborn to die properly. Maxwell, Blackwood acknowledged weakly. Ghost Wolf moved carefully, positioning herself between the groups. Grant's men had their weapons trained on the newcomers, creating a deadly standoff. Daughter, Soaring Eagle called to her in Apache. We have come to witness your vengeance. The simple statement revealed everything. Soaring Eagle had always known the truth, had always intended for her to kill Blackwood. You knew, she responded, in the same language. You knew he wasn't the one who killed my mother. The old Apache's face remained impassive. We raised you to be justice incarnate. The elders believed the White Devil's blood ran in your veins, that you could only purge it by killing him, by killing my true father. Soaring Eagle's eyes flickered to Blackwood. He is not your blood father. That one is. He nodded toward Grant. Blood isn't everything, Ghost Wolf replied. She turned to face Grant, who watched the exchange with calculated patience. Your men are outnumbered. Surrender, and perhaps the territorial court will show mercy. Grant laughed. Always the honorable one, just like your mother. She never understood power either. His hand moved subtly, signaling his men. Unfortunately, I'm not ready to surrender my plans, or my daughter. His gunmen opened fire simultaneously. Chaos erupted as Wilkes and the warriors dove for cover. Blackwood stumbled, the Cheyenne supporting him falling under the onslaught. Ghost Wolf reacted instinctively, launching herself at Grant. Her dagger slashed across his arm as he drew his pistol. They crashed together against the desk, the gun discharging into the ceiling. You're just like her, Grant snarled, struggling against her strength. Weak, sentimental. My mother wasn't weak, Ghost Wolf countered, driving her knee into his stomach. She was brave enough to leave you. Around them the battle raged. Wilkes exchanged fire with Grant's men. Soaring Eagle's arrows found their marks with deadly precision. The Cheyenne warriors moved like shadows through the gun smoke. Ghost Wolf and Grant fought in brutal close quarters, her Apache training against his military experience. He was strong, but she was faster. When he attempted to bring his gun to bear, she knocked it aside. The bullet meant for her heart, striking the wall instead. A sharp pain exploded across her ribs as his hidden knife found its mark. Ghost Wolf stumbled back, wounded, but not beaten. Grant advanced, blade gleaming. I should have let you die in that fire, he spat. Saved myself 25 years of trouble. The admission, casual, cruel, confirmed everything. Grant had indeed started the fire, had indeed killed her mother. A familiar voice called out, "Aurora." Blackwood, still on his feet despite his wounds, tossed something toward her. Instinctively she caught it. A knife with a carved bone handle, twin to her silver dagger. "Clara's knives," Blackwood called. "They belong together, like us." Ghostwolf understood immediately. She had carried one blade her entire life, raised to believe it would deliver justice. Blackwood had kept its twin, a reminder of what he'd lost. Grant lunged at her exposed back. Blackwood, summoning strength from some deep reserve, threw himself forward, intercepting the blow meant for her. The knife plunged into his shoulder as he collapsed against Ghostwolf. "Father," she cried, the word escaping before she could consider it. Grant's face contorted with rage. "He is not your father." In that moment of distraction, Ghostwolf struck. Both blades moved in perfect unison, the silver dagger and bone knife finally reunited in deadly purpose. Grant's eyes widened in shock as the twin blades found their mark. "Clara's justice," Ghostwolf whispered as he fell, 25 years late, but delivered at last. The gunfire ceased. Grant's men, seeing their leader fall, surrendered or fled. Ghostwolf knelt beside Blackwood, examining his fresh wound where Grant's knife had struck. "Not as bad as it looks," he assured her through gritted teeth. Caught mostly cloth, Marshal Wilkes approached, reloading his revolver. "Grant, alive," Ghostwolf reported, glancing at the unconscious form. "Barely. Good. He'll hang properly." Wilkes produced handcuffs. 25 years hunting him. Justice should be public. As they bound Grant's wounds to keep him alive for trial, Soaring Eagle approached. The old Apache's face remained impassive, but his eyes held a new respect as he regarded Ghostwolf. "You chose differently than we expected," he said in Apache. "You raised me to seek truth and justice," she replied. "That's exactly what I did." Soaring Eagle nodded slowly. Perhaps the elders were wrong. Perhaps the blood of the White Devil could be overcome without death. A commotion outside interrupted them. A Cheyenne scout rushed in. "Riders coming. Many men from town." Ghostwolf peered through the window. A mob approached. Armed farmers and townspeople led by Miller, who had evidently escaped the Cheyenne camp. Grant's final plan, Blackwood realized. Turn the town against us. Wilkes checked his ammunition. Not enough bullets for this fight. Ghostwolf made a swift decision. Get Blackwood to safety. Take Grant with you. He's evidence of everything. "What about you?" Blackwood asked. "I'll lead them away. Meet me in Silver Creek." Before anyone could argue, Ghostwolf slipped outside. She mounted her borrowed pony, making sure the mob spotted her, then galloped deliberately past them, close enough for Miller to recognize her. "There she is," he shouted. "The Apache witch who attacked Mr. Harrington." The diversion worked. Most of the mob peeled away to pursue her, giving Wilkes and the others time to escape in the opposite direction, with the unconscious Grant. Ghostwolf rode hard, staying just ahead of her pursuers. Her wound from Grant's knife burned with each movement, but she pushed through the pain. Her entire life had been preparation for this, riding, fighting, enduring. She led the mob on a winding chase, gradually thinning their numbers as less determined riders fell back. Miller remained doggedly on her trail, with 5 others. When her pony began to tire, she cut through a narrow canyon, buying precious minutes while her pursuers sought a way around. Ghostwolf used the time to bind her bleeding side with strips torn from her shirt. The wound wasn't deep, but blood loss would slow her eventually. She needed to reach Silver Creek before Miller caught up. The territorial town appeared on the horizon as the sun began its westward descent. Ghostwolf pushed her exhausted mount toward it, formulating a plan. Grant Harrington was the town's most prominent citizen. His men would control the streets. She needed to find allies. As she entered Silver Creek, curious eyes turned to the blood-streaked woman on the lathered pony. Ghost Wolf rode directly to the jailhouse, hoping Wilkes had deputies she could trust. Instead, she found the place empty, with signs of struggle. "Looking for the law," called a voice. She turned to see Miller and his remaining men blocking the street behind her. Their horses heaved from the hard ride, but their guns were steady. "Harrington owns the law in this town," Miller sneered, "and everyone else of importance." Ghost Wolf scanned her surroundings, noting positions, distances, options. 6 men, all armed. Townsfolk watching from doorways, fearful but curious. No sign of Wilkes or Blackwood. "Harrington is finished," she stated clearly, projecting her voice for the onlookers. "His real name is Maxwell Grant. He's wanted for murder, arson, and fraud across 3 territories." Miller laughed. "Nice try, half-breed. But these good folks know Mr. Harrington as a pillar of the community, a man bringing progress with the railroad, a man building his fortune on stolen land and murdered settlers." Ghost Wolf countered. "Ask him about Clara Blackwood. Ask him about the fire 25 years ago." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Miller's face. "Enough talk. Time to finish this." As he raised his pistol, commotion erupted at the far end of the street. Marshal Wilkes appeared, flanked by uniformly dressed men, territorial rangers. Behind them came Blackwood, supported by Soaring Eagle, and between them, bound and now conscious, Maxwell Grant. "Miller," Wilkes called, "you and your men drop those weapons. You're under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy." Confusion rippled through the gathered townspeople as they looked between Grant, their respected banker Harrington, and the territorial lawman. Ghost Wolf used the distraction. In one fluid motion, she drew and threw her knife, pinning Miller's sleeve to the wooden post behind him before he could fire. His men, suddenly facing both her and a line of official rifles, wisely surrendered. Wilkes approached with a distinguished gray-haired man whose clothing and bearing suggested authority. "Governor," Wilkes introduced, "this is the woman I told you about, the one who helped capture Maxwell Grant." The territorial governor studied Ghost Wolf with interest. "Young woman, it seems we owe you a debt of gratitude. Grant has been wanted for years." From the crowd, a voice called out, "That's Harrington." "A banker." Indeed, the governor addressed the gathering crowd. "Miss Iris Harrington is actually Maxwell Grant, wanted for multiple murders and land fraud. He's been hiding among you, using your town for his schemes." He held up a document. "This is the railroad contract he hoped to sign tomorrow. Built on forged deeds and stolen land." Grant, now fully exposed, straightened despite his bonds. "These people need me. Without the railroad, this town dies." "The railroad will still come," the governor replied, "but legally, with fair compensation to legitimate landowners." As the implications sank in, the townsfolk's shock turned to anger, directed now at Grant rather than Ghost Wolf. Guards led him toward the jailhouse, his elaborate plans collapsing around him. Blackwood made his way to Ghost Wolf's side. "You're wounded." "It's nothing," she dismissed, though the pain had intensified. "You shouldn't be walking. Couldn't let you face this alone." His eyes held pride alongside concern. "Not again." From her pocket, Ghost Wolf withdrew the scarred coin Grant had given her. "He claimed this stopped your bullet, that my mother gave it to him." Blackwood took it, turning it over in his palm. "Clara did give him this, on their wedding day." He flipped it to show her the date. "But look, 1842. The bullet hole came later." Another of his lie. As the crowd dispersed, following the spectacle of Grant's imprisonment, Blackwood handed her something small and golden. "What's this?" she asked. "Your mother's locket," he said softly. "The one true thing I wanted you to see." Ghost Wolf opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a tiny portrait, a young woman with her eyes, a proud man in uniform, who was not Grant, and between them a small child with a wide smile. "Our family," Blackwood said simply. "The one he destroyed. The one we might rebuild if you're willing." The doctor's small office in Silver Creek overflowed with the wounded. Ghost Wolf watched anxiously as Blackwood's injuries were tended. The bullet wound from the siege now inflamed with fever, the new knife wound adding to his struggle. He's strong, the doctor assured her, but not immortal. He's lost too much blood. The fever concerns me most. Outside, the town buzzed with the day's revelations. Grant, now stripped of his Harrington identity, sat in the jailhouse under heavy guard. The territorial governor had taken statements from Ghost Wolf, Wilkes, and the Cheyenne witnesses, building an airtight case against the man who had manipulated so many lives. Night fell. Ghost Wolf refused to leave Blackwood's side, even as her own wound was stitched. Soaring Eagle entered silently, carrying herbs and medicines. "The White Doctor's ways are good," he said, "but our ways may help also." Together they worked through the night, Ghost Wolf bathing Blackwood's fevered brow with cool cloths, Soaring Eagle chanting softly while burning sacred herbs. The Apache elder seemed different now, humbled perhaps by the day's events. "I have dishonored our teachings," he confessed quietly. "The elders believed you were born to deliver justice. Instead, we used you for revenge. You raised me to be strong," Ghost Wolf replied. "That strength served its purpose today, just not as you intended." Soaring Eagle nodded slowly. "The spirits work in ways we cannot always understand." By dawn, Blackwood's fever raged high. He thrashed in delirium, sometimes calling for Clara, sometimes shouting military commands, occasionally murmuring "Aurora" with desperate tenderness. Ghost Wolf fought exhaustion, refusing relief even when Wilkes offered to sit with Blackwood. This vigil was hers alone, a reversal of her life's mission. She had been trained to end this man's life, now she fought to preserve it. "Don't you dare die," she whispered fiercely, when they were alone. "Not after 25 years of waiting. Not after I've finally found you." Blackwood's eyes fluttered open briefly, surprisingly lucid. "Aurora, I'm here." His hand weakly sought hers. "If I don't make it—" "You will," she interrupted. "Listen," he insisted. "If I don't, there's a letter in my desk at the ranch. To the territorial governor. Everything I know about Grant. Evidence I've gathered. Witnesses. You won't need it. The governor already has Grant in custody." A ghost of a smile touched his cracked lips. Prepared for either outcome. Soldier's habit. His eyes closed again, strength fading. Ghost Wolf felt panic rising in her chest, an unfamiliar, unwelcome sensation. She had faced death countless times without fear, but the prospect of losing Blackwood just when she'd found him awakened something primal and painful. Morning brought a delegation from town, the mayor, several businessmen, even the minister. They approached cautiously, respect and regret in their expressions. "We've come to apologize," the mayor began awkwardly. "We didn't know Harrington's Grant's true nature. Had we known what he did to your family..." Ghost Wolf accepted their words with a nod, understanding the power of Grant's deception. These people weren't enemies, they were simply pawns in his game, as she had been. The visitors brought more than apology. They carried food, fresh bandages, offers of assistance. The community that had almost lynched her yesterday now embraced her as one of their own. The daughter of Joseph Blackwood, returned after 25 years. By midday, the doctor's grim expression had softened slightly. "The fever's broken. He's not out of danger, but it's a good sign." Relief washed through Ghost Wolf. She stepped outside for the first time in hours, breathing deeply of the clear mountain air. Across the street, she spotted Grey Dove, the Cheyenne medicine woman, watching from the shadow. "Your heart is divided no longer," Grey Dove observed when Ghost Wolf approached. "The Apache will always be part of me," Ghost Wolf replied. "But yes, I found the other half of myself." "What will you call yourself now? Ghost Wolf or Aurora?" The question gave her pause. Perhaps both, perhaps neither. "I'm something new now." The medicine woman nodded approvingly. Two rivers joining become stronger than either alone. When Ghost Wolf returned to the doctor's office, she found Blackwood awake, pale but alert. His eyes followed her as she entered, brightening with recognition. "You're still here," he said hoarsely. "Where else would I be?" "I thought perhaps with the Apache." Ghost Wolf shook her head. "Soaring Eagle has returned to the tribe. He'll tell them what happened. And you, My path lies elsewhere now. Relief and hope mingled in Blackwood's expression. Before he could respond, Marshal Wilkes entered with news. The governor's escort arrived to transport Grant to the territorial capital for trial. They found him dead in his cell. Ghostwolf tensed. How? Poison, hidden in his boot heel. Wilkes ran a hand through his grey hair. Cheated the hangman after all. Blackwood seemed unsurprised. Grant always controlled his own fate. Too proud to face public justice. He left this, Wilkes added, handing Ghostwolf a folded paper. Asked it be given to my daughter. She unfolded it carefully. In elegant handwriting were just 3 lines. Aurora, blood will tell. I shaped your life more than he ever could. Remember that when you look in the mirror. Ghostwolf stared at the words, then deliberately tore the paper to pieces. He's Ron, Blackwood said softly. Watching her, we're shaped by choices, not blood. I know, she took his hand. I've made mine. Autumn painted the Montana Territory in gold and crimson as Blackwood's ranch slowly transformed. 6 weeks had passed since the confrontation with Grant. The charred barn had been replaced with a new structure, its fresh-cut timber fragrant in the crisp air. The bullet-riddled house now stood sound again, repaired by willing hands from Silver Creek and neighboring homesteads. Ghostwolf, or Aurora, as she sometimes allowed herself to be called, stood on the porch, watching Blackwood inspect a new corral. His recovery had been slow but steady. He still favored his left side where the bullet had struck, but each day brought renewed strength. The town's been good to us, he remarked, joining her on the porch. Never expected such support. They feel guilty for believing Grant's lies, perhaps, or maybe they're just decent folks underneath it all. Their relationship had evolved cautiously over these weeks. Neither rushed to define it, yet both felt its growing substance. They shared meals, worked the ranch together, and in the evenings, Blackwood told stories of Clara, filling in the mother-shaped void in Aurora's heart. Today was different. Today she would make a decision that had weighed on her since Grant's death. I received word from the Apache, she said. Soaring Eagle has told them everything. They've invited me to return, to share in the winter ceremonies. Blackwood's expression remained carefully neutral. Will you go? They raised me, taught me strength, endurance, courage. She paused, but they also used me as a weapon, knowing the truth all along. People are complicated, Blackwood offered, even those we love. The word hung between them, neither acknowledging its weight. I've been thinking about names, she continued, who I am now. And Ghostwolf was my Apache name. Aurora Blackwood was the name you and my mother gave me. She faced him directly. Perhaps I can be both. Blackwood smiled. Aurora Wolf Blackwood has a certain strength to it. You wouldn't mind? Mind? I'd be honored. His voice roughened with emotion. Whatever name you choose, you'll always be the daughter I thought I'd lost forever. They were interrupted by riders approaching. Marshal Wilkes and a young man in a crisp suit. Joseph, Wilkes called, dismounting. Brought someone you should meet. Mr. Jenkins from the Territorial Land Office. Formalities exchanged, Jenkins explained his presence. With Maxwell Grant's estate forfeited to the territory, we've been sorting through his holdings. Found something interesting about this ranch. He produced official-looking documents. Grant had acquired adjacent parcels over the years. With his conviction, they revert to the original deed holder, which appears to be you, Mr. Blackwood. Aurora watched understanding dawn on Blackwood's face. He was surrounding me, buying up everything that bordered my land. Nearly 1,500 acres in total, Jenkins confirmed. Governor asked me to deliver the updated deed personally. After the officials departed, Blackwood stared at the papers in disbelief. 25 years he plotted revenge. Now his own schemes give us back more than we lost. Perhaps justice has its own poetry, Aurora observed. That evening, as they sat by the fire, Blackwood broached a subject they'd both avoided. I've been thinking about making things official. If you're agreeable, Aurora looked up from the knife she was sharpening. Official. Blackwood cleared his throat. Legal adoption papers. You're a grown woman, of course, but it would establish your rights to the ranch. Make clear our relationship. You want me to stay permanently. This is your home, Aurora. It always was. His eyes met hers. I understand if you need time to consider, or if you'd rather make your own way. The fire crackled in the silence as Aurora considered his words. 25 years of single-minded purpose had defined her existence. Now that purpose fulfilled, she faced something far more challenging. Choice. The next morning Aurora rode to the edge of the property. From this vantage point, she could see the distant mountains where the Apache made their winter camp. Behind her lay Blackwood's ranch, perhaps now her ranch too. Soaring Eagle had appeared at dawn, materializing like his namesake from the mist. He would return to the tribe today, had come to hear her decision. The elders accept that you must follow your own path, he told her. But they wish you to know you will always have a place among us. The Apache gave me strength when I was vulnerable, Aurora acknowledged. I honor that gift. And now, she gazed at the ranch house in the distance. Now I must learn things they couldn't teach me, about family, about belonging to a place. Soaring Eagle nodded, understanding in his weathered face. The white man, Blackwood, he is a good man, better than we allowed ourselves to believe. He is my father, Aurora said, testing the words that still felt new on her tongue. Not by blood, but by choice. When she returned to the ranch, Blackwood was on the porch, his face carefully composed to hide his anxiety about her decision. I had something made in town, Aurora said, presenting him with a carved wooden sign. It read, Blackwood Ranch in bold letters, with smaller text beneath, and daughter. Tears gathered in Blackwood's eyes as he traced the lettering, work-roughened fingers. Your mother would have loved this. Together they mounted the sign above the repaired front gate, a declaration to all who passed. This land belonged to both of them now. Father and daughter reunited against impossible odds. As the autumn sun warmed their shoulders, Aurora felt something unfamiliar but welcome unfurling within her. Not the sharp focus of vengeance, but the gentle certainty of belonging. 1 year later, spring blossoms dotted the hillsides surrounding Blackwood Ranch. The property thrived under the joint stewardship of Joseph Blackwood and his daughter. Their reputation had spread throughout the territory. The rancher and the warrior woman who had exposed Maxwell Grant's schemes and brought justice after 25 years. Aurora stood at the freshly turned earth where the original house had burned so long ago. In her hands she held a young sapling, an oak, chosen for its strength and longevity. Ready? Blackwood asked, approaching with a shovel. Together they planted the tree, patting soil around its tender roots. It seemed fitting, new life growing where tragedy had once occurred. The governor's letter came today, Blackwood said as they worked. Grant's trial records are officially sealed. His victims can finally rest easy. Aurora nodded, remembering the man who had shaped her life through hatred and manipulation. He wanted to be remembered. Instead, he'll be forgotten. Not by us, Blackwood corrected gently. We'll remember, but without letting it poison our future. They had developed an easy rhythm over the months, working the ranch, expanding the herds, building Aurora's own cabin on a rise overlooking the valley. Independence with connection, separation with belonging. Ryder, coming, Aurora noted, her keen eyes spotting movement along the road. Marshal Wilkes appeared, now sporting a territorial marshal's badge in place of his town star. He visited regularly, bringing news and occasionally staying for supper. Fine day for a gathering, he called, dismounting. Is it time already? Blackwood checked the sun's position. Town's already setting up. They sent me to make sure you don't forget. Silver Creek was hosting its first Founders Day celebration, ironically inspired by the events surrounding Grant's exposure. The town had discovered a renewed sense of community in the aftermath, determined to build something positive from the ashes of deception. As they prepared to leave, Aurora retrieved something from her cabin, Clara's journal, given to her by Blackwood months ago. She had read it countless times, tracing her mother's handwriting, absorbing her thoughts and hopes. Today seemed right to bring it. The celebration filled Silver Creek's main street with bunting and tables laden with food. Children ran between displays of local craftsmanship. A band played on a hastily constructed platform. Aurora observed the scene with quiet amusement. The Apache had different ceremonies, more solemn and spiritual, yet she found herself enjoying this exuberant expression of community. Many nodded respectfully as she passed. Some still feared her, intimidated by the stories of her fighting prowess. Others had come to admire her, particularly young women who whispered about the lady warrior who had helped bring a criminal to justice. "Miss Blackwood," greeted Thomas Running Elk, a half-Cheyenne rancher whose property bordered theirs. His smile revealed genuine pleasure at seeing her. Their friendship had developed gradually, over shared fence repairs and cattle roundup. Lately, his visits had become more frequent, often bringing small leaves, a handcrafted bridle, fresh-caught fish, wildflower honey. "Thomas," she acknowledged, returning his smile. Blackwood watched their interaction with poorly concealed approval. Later, as they shared a meal at one of the long tables, he leaned closer to her. "He seems like a good man," he observed casually. Aurora arched an eyebrow. "Are you playing matchmaker, father?" The word still felt new, but increasingly natural. Blackwood's face brightened every time she used it. "Merely observing," he replied innocently, "though I wouldn't mind grandchildren someday." Aurora nearly choked on her lemonade. "You're getting ahead of yourself. A father can hope." As evening approached, the celebration moved to the newly completed town hall. The governor himself had arrived to dedicate the building. In his speech, he spoke of justice, community, and the bright future awaiting the territory. When it concluded, Aurora slipped away from the crowds, seeking a moment of quiet. She found herself in the small town cemetery, standing before a fresh marker. Blackwood had arranged it months ago, a proper headstone for Clara, though her actual grave remained at the ranch. Aurora opened the journal to a page she had memorized. "My dearest Aurora, today you took your first steps, tottering bravely across the kitchen floor. Joseph says you have my determination and his stubbornness, a formidable combination. I pray you will grow into a woman of strength and compassion, who knows her own mind and follows her heart. Whatever path life takes you on, know that you are loved beyond measure." Footsteps approached. Blackwood, respecting her solitude, but offering his presence. "I come here sometimes too," he admitted. "I wish I had clearer memories of her." "You have her spirit," he said, "her courage. When you smile, which happens more often now, you look just like her." They stood in comfortable silence until the stars emerged. "Ready to head home?" he asked finally. Home. The word encompassed so much: the ranch, her cabin, the land, the man beside her, the life she had chosen rather than the one chosen for her. "Yes," Aurora replied, tucking the journal away. "I'm ready." As they rode beneath the vast Montana sky, Aurora Wolfe Blackwood felt the separate threads of her existence. Apache warrior and rancher's daughter, avenger and protector, past and future weaving together into something stronger than either could be alone. The ghosts that had driven her for 25 years had finally found rest. In their place stood a woman who had, at last, become fully herself.